A beautiful girl named Bianca Schettino is having fun with her lover, Ciccio Paradiso. The sister Maria convinces Bianca to leave, but she does not want to part with her beloved. They agree to meet tonight. The events are set in Italy, in the 1950s. Ciccio's wife looks after their son and does chores around the house. At this time, Maria discourages Bianca from dating Ciccio because he has a wife and child. But Bianca doesn't care. Ciccio returned home. His sister Linda, who was aware of his affair with Bianca, advised him to stop it, but Ciccio was not going to listen to her. The mother also tried to reason with Ciccio, but the son responded by saying that he only dreamed of leaving here. One of the girls who works in the olive harvest is molested by Schettino. She doesn't want it, but she has no choice. His daughter Maria hears this. In the evening, Ciccio visits an acquaintance, hoping to find her husband here, but he is not at home. The woman asks Ciccio not to involve her husband in his shady dealings. In the evening at the bar, Ciccio told the entrepreneur Luigi in front of everyone that from now on they would not sell olives for a cheap price and allow greedy businessmen to profit from their labor. Absolutely everyone in the bar supported Ciccio. The next day at breakfast, he clashed with his father as usual. Lucia, Ciccio's wife, asked where he had been during the night. The father, who was ashamed of his son, took Lucia's side. Ciccio, feeling absolutely no guilt at all, left home and met Bianca again. He told her that he dreamed of traveling and being free, not living his whole life in this worthless place. Bianca would like that too. She is in love with Ciccio and wants to be with him always. In the meantime, Luigi makes claims against Schettino, Ciccio's employer, asking him to resolve the situation. The man promised that he would solve the problem. Winch, Ciccio's friend, advises him to stop the secret affair with Bianca, because if Schettino, her father, finds out about it, it will not end well. But Ciccio is sure that everything will be alright. That same evening, however, he is informed that Schettino wants to talk to him. When they met, Ciccio pretended not to know Bianca. Schettino was a friend of Ciccio's father, but had a bad attitude toward his grandfather, who left his wife and 3 children for a 16-year-old girl. Ciccio in turn asked Schettino to respect the labor of ordinary workers, on whom the entrepreneurs are mercilessly profiting. Schettino assured him that he would not leave his complaints unheeded. That same night, 2 workers dragged Luigi out of his car and beat him severely, scattering the bills. The very next day Luigi went to the police. As darkness fell, Ciccio climbed through the window of his beloved, who had not expected to see him here at all. Maria was asleep in the bed next door, so the couple moved to the barn to indulge in passion. Ciccio confesses his love to the girl. She is upset by the fact that her beloved is married, but she still believes that someday they can be together. All the next morning Bianca thought only of Ciccio and confessed to the sister that they had spent the entire night together. It turns out that Ciccio fell asleep in the barn and hasn't left yet. Maria doesn't want the sister to get in trouble, so after kicking her brother Cosimo out, she tells the guy to run away through the window. Lucia told her husband that their son ran away from home tonight because he wanted to find his father. The woman is tired of this life and wants to ask the priest for advice on what to do next. Ciccio tells the wife that he loves her, but they want different things. What she considers a sin is absolutely normal for him. Ciccio has been having fun with Bianca again. The girl thinks her father suspects their affair. Ciccio promised his beloved that they would leave in 3 days and stay with his brother Antonio for the first time. Meanwhile, Cosimo told the father that Bianca had been with Ciccio again. When Bianca returned, the father called her a fallen woman. In response, Bianca took off her dress, believing that she had nothing to be ashamed of, because the father is no better than her. She and Maria repeatedly saw what he was doing to girls in the barn. After waiting for everyone to fall asleep, Ciccio looked at his wife and son for a long time, and then went outside. The next day he decided to have a serious talk with Schettino, but the latter did not let him do so and began to talk about abstract topics. Taking advantage of Ciccio's distraction, Schettino knocked him out with a shovel and then took his life. Later, the guy was discovered by the townspeople on horseback. On seeing her perished husband, Lucia screamed like a madwoman and his mother fainted. Bianca screamed too, and Maria plugged her ears so she wouldn't have to hear it. Bianca understood that her father had done it. That same day, the boss informed a guy named Antonio, Ciccio's twin brother, of what had happened. Later he told his bride about it. At home, Antonio packed to go to the funeral. All these years he had kept a baby picture of them. Meanwhile, the police began to grab potential suspects. In the morning Antonio arrived in his hometown to the family and hugged his mother, who was inconsolable. Linda asked the brother to take her away from here because she could no longer be here. Lucia hugged Antonio and thanked him for coming. It is a great grief for the whole family. Antonio sat beside the coffin for a long time. Ciccio was treated like an animal, and that should not go unpunished. Against all odds, Bianca intends to see Ciccio. The brother and sister tried to stop her, but they could not. The entire Chicho family wept bitterly at the funeral. As the coffin was carried out of the house and the funeral procession walked down the street, weeping Bianca looked on. Neighbors who were sympathetic to the family's loss threw red carnations. Later, Antonio visited the police station to find out the details of what happened to his brother. However, the officer said they didn't know anything yet, but were working on it. Some people in the city were outraged that 30 people had been arrested because of Chicho. The guy had a bad reputation because he stole other people's women. Winch told Antonio about Bianca, whom Chicho loved. The father believed that the son got what he deserved, as he did a lot of stupid things. In addition, he tried to fight Schettino and all his gang, and this would definitely not lead to anything good. Antonio said he was going to leave tonight. The father advised him to forget about this house, family and never come back. It was for his own good. Cosimo attacked Bianca and tied her up so she would not run away. When Antonio appeared on their doorstep, Cosimo and the head of the family made it clear Antonio were not welcome. Schettino hoped that now all the people in town would understand that no one would dare touch his daughter. Antonio, however, was not frightened by his words. After saying goodbye to the family, Antonio was about to leave. Winch walked him to the bus stop. On the way, he remembers his brother as a child. One day someone attacked Schettino, taking his life. The same fate befell Cosimo. Later, Lucia found their clothes outside her house. The police wanted to arrest the woman on suspicion of having committed, but her father-in-law would not allow the officers to do so. When Maria entered the barn, she screamed in terror. Hearing the sisters scream, Bianca ran to her. In the barn were the bodies of their father and brother. Some time had passed. Now the girls are left without protection. The salesman, not hiding his contempt, refuses to sell them flour, salt, and other products. Bianca had to steal bread to feed herself and the sister. Now the girls have become outcasts in the city, they are not welcome even in church. One day Bianca visits Luigi, asking for help. The problem is that after what happened, no one wants to work for them, although their land is huge. Luigi promised to help, making no secret of his interest in the girl and offering her to do him a favor in exchange for gratitude. Bianca did not want that, so she struck insistent Luigi and ran away. At this time, Antonio was becoming more and more melancholy. One of the workers had suffered a severe work injury through his fault. Bianca sees her beloved everywhere. Sorrow eats away at her from the inside, making her see things that are not really there. She recalls how she was once bitten by a snake. Chicho offered his help, but he kissed the girl instead. That is how they met. In the present, Bianca tells her lover that she will never forget him. Meanwhile, Antonio's bride offers to live together. She notices that something is troubling the groom. He replied that he could never recover from the loss of the brother. At work, Antonio's boss, who is also the father of his bride, suggests that he take a leave of absence, but he refuses, assuring him that everything is fine and that there will be no more accidents at work. In the evening, Antonio sent a letter while the Chicho family continues to grieve. Soon Bianca received the letter from Antonio, but she did not read it and put it in the nightstand. Antonio meanwhile met in a restaurant with friends. He sent the bride a letter in advance, and she cried when she read it. Antonio had made up his mind and was about to return to his native land. When the mother saw him, she could not believe her eyes. She hugged the son, unable to hold back tears of joy. The first thing Antonio did was to visit the Schettino family home to see Bianca. Maria invited him inside and offered him cookies. Antonio saw a picture of the girl's mother, who passed away young. Maria went to get Bianca, but when they returned, Antonio was no longer here. Maria is perplexed as to why he left without any explanation. Antonio told his father that he had seen the picture of Schettino's wife. It was the same picture the father had once kept in his wallet. The man had to confess that Maria was his daughter. He grew up in the Schettino family. At first everything was fine. But when Bianca was born, Schettino seemed to go crazy, because he wanted a son. He behaved like an animal, drank, beat the wife, who constantly ran away from him. Now the man does not have the courage to look Maria in the eyes, he has never forgiven himself for that. Bianca finally dared to open the letter. Antonio wrote that he had something important to tell her. Meanwhile, Antonio decided to tell the truth to his mother, who was shocked by what she had heard. In the street, Antonio was called out by Bianca. She saw Chicho in his place, for they were like two peas in a pod. Bianca was ready to listen to Antonio, who declared that he wanted to marry her right away.